So
actually, they are not. They have are now do some analysis about a group of Chinese, Japanese, Southeast Asian, and the Jew, of course, and the black, and so on. Actually, one interesting conclusion is, therefore, the first generation or the second generation of Chinese immigrant to this country is very successful in terms of their, when you measure what is successful in the society. In general, they have the highest education. They make they make good living. Actually, from penniless to accumulate a lot of asset for their and so on. But then in the second, third generation, they start to lose that feeling of uniqueness. The number one, superiority. The second, insecurity. When they feel they are more and more insecure, then naturally they would mingle into the general population.
That's right. Yeah, I think it's a kind of a complicated question of what exactly makes success.
Yeah.
Also the definition, right? I think it looks like this is the traditional definition, which is
Yeah,
fame and wealth kind of
Right.
success.
But that's the thing too, is I think I don't know if any of you are critical race scholars, but if any of you happen to read kind of the academic theory of race and the history of race in this country, it often is such that no matter how much success you have, right, whatever dominant group is going to try and exploit that somehow, right? So, take for example, even Black Americans, right? It might be surprising to hear, but they, post Civil War, right, during the Reconstruction era, and even after that, in the early 1900s, Black Americans developed essentially what is an alternate economy, became extremely successful, right? Our response to that or not our response, but the government response was to literally use the National Guard and bomb these black neighborhoods wherever they were successful, right? So the Tulsa, Oklahoma bombings, right, are an extreme example of this. For us, it comes down to a few other things. There are always going to be things working against us. Even if we were to be extremely successful, and in this room we largely already are, right? They're going, essentially the dominant power structure, the dominant group in power, is going to caricature that. So for us, right, we were extremely successful, but we're engineers. So the stereotype then is that we're essentially a bunch of engineers who don't know how to do anything else, right? So is that really success? At what price did that success come at? The key issue then is, why does this keep happening? Who is it that continues to generate these stereotypes, and why does that continue to happen? I think that's a little bit more important. So to talk about Asian male insecurity, Asian male undesirability, requires an analysis of that too. Maybe we'll be successful, maybe we'll be desirable, right? But how will that be used against us? That's the greater context, and often that comes down to the fact that white men run the world, right? And so they'll often act in their interest, which is to subjugate people who aren't white men. So that's a much more historical answer than maybe you were looking for. But let's go back to the panel. Let's talk a little bit more about relationships. Yeah.
Oh, Alex.
Yeah, I think it's a timing. Yeah, this is to 6 o'clock. Now it's already 6:25.
Keep going if you
Yeah.
want to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have a question, you can continue. Yeah, some parents doesn't.
Suck us up.
Yeah.
Oh, so talk about this the girls boys things. So how do you deal with this pressure? I know you probably have some pressure about this, relationship. How do you have this pressure at school and dating thing, or how do you deal with this pressure?
I don't care what my friends say about my relationships. I just go for it.
Hello.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I didn't mean it like that.
Accidental roasting.
I turned the fire and left the house.
Thanks, Robert.
Sorry,
I
dude.
appreciate it.
So,
So would you like to share the pressure with your parents when you encounter such a problem when you see it? Or would you rather to share with your friends?
I encounter problems with my parents.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Either
yeah.
you're dating or not dating, do you have
Whatever
pressure? Or you after
you have the
dating have
pressure.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try to answer that. I actually don't really care about dating. So.
I don't feel the pressure.
If you don't date, if no boys, let's say, if no boys ask you out for dating, all your good friends, all everybody else ask them, do you have pressure, peer pressure?
No.
No, you feel it's okay. You don't feel nobody like me. I'm probably so bad person. Okay, I just wanna ask.
I'm not a bad person.
I mean, I just that feeling of peer pressure because everybody, all the girls around you that date, they have dating or boyfriend, but you don't have them. Do you? What's
By
your feeling?
coincidence, Pally, like there aren't that many long-term couples in my school in general.
So you just not very serious. I mean, I don't know. I should not say not serious. It's just very short time dating.
Yeah, it's kind of my experience in Asian high schools that there's not really a culture of dating. There's more of a culture of avoidance when it comes to, like, if anything, the pressure is to avoid as much as possible.
Okay.
It's scary in a way that it's not scary at Los Gatos High. And I think unfortunately the culture of avoidance has negative effects as opposed to positive ones.
Let me ask this way, in high school, what pressure that student usually have in high school?
Grades.
Grade?
College.
That's about it. Grades, college.
Extracurriculars.
So relationship is not
Not at
pressure.
all.
There
Not
might
at
see
all.
that
in
pressure
like
for
media
the-
a lot, like
Okay.
because like on TV shows or books, whenever it's about school, like they talk about all of the relationship pressures because that's just a more interesting theme for some reason.
Well, it's
in
also
media, but,
it's
like,
also just very different from non-Asian high schools.
yeah. Well, that's also true, but I mean, yeah. So it's not really as much as an issue as you might think it would be.
Do you have pressure on dressing, like, oh, I don't want to wear this,
I
nothing
think-
on me, or I want, like, brand name, something like this.
I have observed such pressure. Yes.
I think like in certain like friend groups, the pressures are different. Like I know some people who are concerned about clothing. They talk about clothing all the time. Not all the time, but like it's a frequent topic. And then I feel like, but like for some people, like I don't care about clothing that much. Some people care about dating. Some people don't. Some people care about grades. Some people care about video games. It's like we all have, like at my school, we all have an overarching, like everybody cares and stressed over grades. Like within each friend group and like each friend group has their own unique, like what they're interested in and what they want.
I feel like speaking as a girl, and I know that I feel like there are more expectations placed on girls. Even in America, I feel like in China, like when they went to school, teachers put you in uniforms, right? You have to be in uniforms. So in a way, in that kind of system, like people cared more about clothing than here. Like I don't really care. I go to school and when I talk to people, like subconsciously, I'm just like, this is not what you should care about in me either. And then it just happens like that. Whereas when I go to China, like people would point at me and just be like, and then there is like more this almost subconscious like urge that I have to dress this way in order, because it's very counterintuitive, but it's actually more judgmental that way. There, like the brand name and stuff, like around me, none of my friends are like that here, and it's just more comfortable, I think.
But if there's any pressure at all, it would be for grades. And I have quite a few white friends and who tell me that they feel like this. They feel this like secondhand pressure
Every time you
because
walk in a room.
they feel this pressure because the parents of Asian students are pressuring them to get better grades. The Asian students around them will create this environment of like a competitive environment of trying to get better grades and like not valuing you if you do not do well in your schoolwork, and that creates a really negative effect. And I know a lot of white students at my school who are like really unhappy because they feel this like residual pressure from it.
Now, do you get influenced like the friend that you go with, you know, oh, he's really good, he's a straight A student, I want to like him, you study more, or you don't care, even my good friend is a straight A.
I don't feel that, but I do, let's see, I feel like sometimes that I need to maintain an image of being like a straight A student because people expect that from me, and it's like, I mean, it's not really the grades themselves so much, it's that, like, I don't know, it's just that people, like, will expect certain things from me, and I try to, like, subvert those expectations whenever I can, but, you know. I don't know if that made any sense.
I think they call the straight A student called nerds or something. They don't want sometimes they Calvin, they don't want to put down with all these nerds.
Oh,
That doesn't
nerds are
happen.
cool in our school.
That doesn't happen much actually, because of this pressure for grades, because of this pressure with grades, that doesn't really happen.
Oh.
So the word nerd is like very negative?
Okay.
Somebody
I have a different interpretation of nerd than most people do, which is like, it's somebody who, like, yes, they're smarter than everybody else, but it's somebody who's like, who has like a very strong interest in a certain subject. Like I would consider myself a nerd in biology because I spend a considerable amount of time reading and like doing biology things, but like he taught me bio, so like but like I wouldn't say nerd is a negative thing, but it's just like in popular culture, nerd may be like, oh, you don't want to be the nerd because the nerds always hang out with each other.
Right.
But like I feel like in more Asian school, like everybody, like amongst other schools, everybody here would be considered a nerd, but amongst us, like everybody kind of either looks up to the nerd or doesn't really care that they're a nerd.
And even now, like across like the country, popular perception is changing in that respect. Like maybe in like a specific high school, you still feel like you're still like called a nerd, but like in general, like nerds are not necessarily looked down upon as much as maybe like 10, 20 years ago, I feel like.
I think it's losing its shape.
So if somebody call you nerds, do you angry or no?
No one's ever called me
Nobody's
nerd.
ever called me a nerd.
It's usually really obviously a joke.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there and like maybe yeah, it's like
Yeah, I think, you know, it's become normal to get very high grades. You know, I mean that's become normal. So the people who are nerds now, sometimes don't even get good grades. They're just people without social skills. You know,
Yeah, then define people have high academic achieve very high score, but the social skills is very, very low.
Well,
So
I'm
that's
saying-
used to define like them, right?
I'm saying now it's like, you know, sometimes now a nerd is someone who doesn't even get good grades. They don't have social skills or good grades. You know, that's the only time I've really heard it used is when someone just doesn't know how to talk to people. You know, regardless of what their grades are.
Oh, interesting. Learned something new today.
Okay.
I mean that's my experience. That's not you know.
Yeah, Bill Gates is a nerd, right? Bill Gates is a nerd, right?
Bill Gates
Yeah,
is a
he
ball.
said nice to be nerd. Chances are you're going to end up working for one.
Oh yeah,
That's Bill Gates
you
said.
hear that, but you know, it's like you look at Bill Gates' business decisions, and you look at Microsoft through the '90s. You know, there's no way someone with no social skills could have done that. You know, Bill Gates is also a college dropout, right? We don't want to glorify college dropouts. But yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of, I mean, I wouldn't call Bill Gates a nerd in that sense, because he's a vicious man with a dark inner side. Yeah.
High EQ, I think.
High EQ and no regard for other people's feelings. That's a powerful combination.
Yeah. Thank you for,
I learned a lot from your guys.
Yeah, it's better. It's a first-hand experience.
It's impossible to, know it for ourselves, because they don't talk,
Yeah.
they don't talk
Yeah,
about
but
it.
what about this Asian American woman, the suicide rate is high, the number one. You said